It seems like the end of the Huawei ban could be in sight, kind of. The Commerce Department announced it will finally allow select US tech companies to sell to Huawei, presuming it doesn't compromise national security. So the Commerce Department has blacklisted Huawei for months upon months now. That means no US business can have any sort of transaction with Huawei. So that includes selling chips, that includes selling software. The way to get around this, though, was to apply for a license through the Commerce Department, and then the Commerce Department would allegedly at some point approve the license or not approve the license. And if approved, that company could start doing business with Huawei. So companies have been applying for licenses for months now. The Commerce Department has actually received 260 applications for licenses, which the Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross has said is much more than, frankly, he expected. So finally now the Commerce Department has the green light to go through these and approve some and not approve probably many, many more. So you might remember that a few weeks ago, I talked about how the Huawei Mate 30 was released without any Google Mobile Services support. So that means that the Mate 30 was originally released with bare bones Android, whatever was available open source. And that also means that there weren't any Google-specific apps pre-programmed on the Mate 30. So think Google Play Store, Gmail, YouTube, that sort of stuff. So there was, for a bit of time, a backdoor. It was this website called LZ Play, and you could go onto that website, download Google Mobile Services for your Huawei Mate 30 or Mate 30 Pro, and it seemed like, for the most part, your Huawei phone would operate as normal as you would expect it to operate with Google Apps. So if the Commerce Department approves these licenses relatively soon, this would be really, really good for the European market, who is expecting to receive the Mate 30 and Mate 30 Pro soon, and the European market is by and large used to having these Google apps on any Android phone. So here's what's possible to expect once the Commerce Department starts rolling out these approvals. The huge thing that might happen is that Google and Huawei can work together once again, and that means that Google is able to offer Android support to current Huawei phones like the Mate 30, Mate 30 Pro. It's important to remember that this ban really only applied to future Huawei devices, and the Mate 30 Pro was included in those future devices. Another thing that can happen is that US chip makers like Micron or Intel can now sell to Huawei without needing to find some sort of loophole in the ban. So now, assuming that their license is approved, they can have probably a more normal business relationship, much like what they were doing before the ban ever happened. I highly doubt that Huawei hardware will ever appear in US 5G networks. That's because it's an alleged national security risk. Remember, the whole reason that this ban started is because of allegations that Huawei could use its equipment to spy on anyone using its equipment and report that information back to the Chinese government. This has never been proven, it's just alleged, but for that reason, it's extremely unlikely Huawei equipment will ever appear in future generation networks. And to be honest, they're not going to be appearing in current networks either. There's a whole program right now for smaller rural telecom providers to rip and replace all Huawei equipment, and that's actually being funded by the US government. And even though this is a somewhat friendly move by the Commerce Department to Huawei, this does not signal the end of the US-China trade war, but trade talks could be coming soon, even as early as this month. That's when there could be some sort of agreement or preliminary agreement reached between the US and China. It's important to remember that even though the Commerce Department says it will approve these licenses soon, we don't know exactly when they'll actually be approved. And the Commerce Department expects to decline many of the 260 applications they received, so stay tuned to find out which companies are in fact granted licenses. So what do you think of the US finally lifting parts of this months-long ban? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you next time.